welcome to TalkFCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys, to our Barcelona News Round-Up coming up for you today. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing the return of the Champions League and the possible changes that we could see to the Champions League format for the remainder of this year's competition. We're also going to be talking about the players that Barcelona have put up for swap deals this summer, a number of high-profile players that may be used in exchange deals, and we're also going to be talking very, very importantly about the biggest financial obstacle that Barcelona face this summer. It's a big one and it's important. It's coming up for you. Let's get to it. But of course, we do start, as always, with some pictures from this morning's training session. It's always good here to see the players back at work and to see every single day we're moving closer. And it is right now nice to have something to work towards, something to know that in a few weeks' time we are going to see football back on our screens. And that is absolutely fantastic news. Once again this morning, just as we said, it'll be the third training session in succession this week, with Monday, Tuesday, and now Wednesday out on the field there in those groups of 10 players. The players will have a day off tomorrow. Thursday will be a complete rest day for the squad, but they will be back in on Friday, same time, same place, 9:30 a.m. The work continues. We continue to step it up. But if we do now move on to the big topic of the Champions League, which is something that UEFA are still continuing to say it will be resolved, it will be concluded by the end of August. The competition by then will be done. They have said that from start to finish, and it doesn't seem as though they're going to move away from that. But in order to get that competition finished in good time, in order there to bring it to an end by the end of August, they may have to implement a number of different changes to the usual Champions League format in order to get it done. And some of those changes have been highlighted in a bit of detail there in the Spanish media, first of all from AS, and also then Cope have got involved in exactly what the Champions League may change towards the end of the season, because the first major change to the competition would all be surrounding the current two-leg format, because of course in the quarterfinals, semi-finals, round of 16 stage, you've got the first leg, you've got the second leg, home and away. But according to the reports in Spain there, from the quarterfinal stage onwards, two-leg ties would be scrapped for this year. There would be one-legged ties for the rest of the tournament in the quarterfinal, semi-final, and then of course the final would all be decided over 90 minutes only, which then means that you can move through those games, move through the different rounds much quicker than you usually would be able to. And also there, given that quicker format thanks to those single-leg ties, there could also be a very significant change to the final matches of the tournament itself, with the other big proposed change set to be there regarding the semi-final and the final matches, because apparently there could be a Final Four format implemented there at the end of the Champions League, with all of the games coming live from Turkey, which would then see the tournament concluded over a 4-day period. You'd play the semi-final matches and then you'd have the final just a few days later, all coming from the same venue in Istanbul, and that there would be a very interesting end to a completely different Champions League format. And what it would also do there, not only speed up the process, not only there get through the games in a much quicker way, but by holding the semi-final and the final all in the same place over that short space of time, what UEFA would try to do is just limit there the amount of travel there for those remaining teams. They wouldn't have to go long distances. They would of course have to go out to Turkey, but once they're there, they've got the semi-final and then you've got the final to get the Champions League done. AS go on to say the Champions League plans to resume on Saturday, the 8th of August. That's when we could see the Champions League back on our screens, and that would then see the remaining round of 16 ties. Of course, Barcelona against Napoli is one of those. They would have to be played first, and it would most importantly mean that by the start of August, the European leagues, the major leagues there in Europe, they would be over. So the aim here is to get the leagues done, get the domestic leagues, the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga, get them all out the way and finished, and then in August, move on to the Champions League. And all of these plans, all of these possible changes are due to be discussed in UEFA's Executive Committee meeting, which will be held on June the 17th, where then we could receive confirmation. But I do think those are some very interesting proposed changes to this season's Champions League. Obviously, we don't know what sort of knock-on effect it'll have. I would assume that it would only be for this year's competition, but obviously, you'd have to wait and see how it goes. But I'm just very interested there, guys, in what you make of those changes. And in particular, do you feel there as though those single-leg ties, one-off matches in the Champions League, will that help or will that hinder Barcelona's progress in the competition. Because obviously, it's going to be different. It's going to be a very, very different type of tournament. It's going to be a one-off game. It's going to be 90 minutes there to get through to the next round, and there's going to be no room for error. There's going to be no time there, if you do make a mistake, to actually correct it. If you've got a lead, maybe there won't be time to blow it. But what do you think there about Barcelona's chances with those single leg ties? Let me know down below. But if we do indeed move on to that transfer news now, and in particular Barcelona, what they plan to do in the coming transfer market, and of course how the implications financially will be affected, the kind of deals that we can do. Because then we have to accept, guys, this is going to be a very different transfer window. We've said that a lot already on the channel. But in particular, I think we are going to see many more player exchange deals. That seems to be something now that not only Barcelona are looking to do, other clubs as well have sort of put that forward as a potential idea, because the money is going to be stretched. Some players you'll want to try and get rid of, but obviously if you can't get the fee that you want for those players, maybe then you could use that to your advantage and just exchange it for a player that you need. And Sport this morning on their cover have basically spoke about the different kind of deals that Barcelona would like to try and do in the transfer window. They've got Lautaro Martinez there, they've got Miralem Pjanic, and they've also got De Sciglio from Juventus. And there's basically an abundance there of Barcelona players who they say could be used in exchange deals to basically secure what Barcelona need. Now, the first thing I'd say is, why are we insisting here on De Sciglio? He is a right back at Juventus who has not convinced. He didn't convince at AC Milan. He certainly hasn't convinced at Juventus. Why do we want him? Why is he even part of these deals? I've got no idea. But basically there, they say that Semedo, Rafinha, Junior Firpo, Carlos Alenia, Ivan Rakitic, Arturo Vidal, and now as well, Samuel Umtiti is being brought here into the equation as potentially there's somebody who could come forward in an exchange deal. What I also want to say there's one man you won't see, and that's Arthur Melo. Juve really wanted him. They really, really wanted to exchange Pjanic for Arthur Melo. I mean, of course they did. It was a great deal for them. But obviously, Arthur said no. He is off the table. Doesn't matter what you hear, guys, about Arthur. He is not leaving, and that's fantastic news. But that there are the players who may be being put forward for those swap deals. What I do want to come on to, though, is Barcelona's finances, because obviously we've spoken about this in previous videos where I said that basically, how are we going to afford some of these massive signings? And quite frankly, we can't. It is coming out now that Neymar this summer is going to be such a difficult operation that Barcelona are already starting now to feel as though that may be a step too far. And even Lautaro Martinez, we can't pay his release clause. There's absolutely no chance of Barcelona going there with 111 million euros in cash and paying into that sort of money. We simply don't have it. And I just want to highlight here exactly what the concern is, because Cat Radio there came out with a report that basically went on to say that Barcelona right now stand to lose around 150 million euros in income because of the current pandemic. And the biggest concern right now, they say, with that loss of revenue, with the problems we have financially, the biggest concern is not finding the money for transfers, but it's actually finding the money to pay our own players. The biggest concern is the wage bill. That's what Cat Radio is saying right now. Because, of course, you think back there to the start of the pandemic, Barcelona players came out and announced there they would take a 70% pay cut. And that in itself, that tells us the real magnitude there of Barcelona's problems, because that's a massive wage cut. I said it at the time. They were really, really good to take that sort of cut there. That was a much bigger reduction than anything we've seen from any major club. Because you look across there at somebody like Real Madrid, similar sorts of revenues there to Barcelona, similar sorts of stars on their books. They agreed there a pay cut ranging between 10 to 20%. Compare 10 to 20% to 70%. That's massive, and that tells you everything you need to know about what Barcelona not just wanted to do, but they had to do that. They needed a cut that big to actually survive there with paying the players' wages. So right now, you're talking about these big transfers, you're talking here about the massive transfer fees. I think Barcelona, the board need to sit back and think, okay, how are we going to make sure that our players here are paid? How can we make sure that our wage bill is manageable? Don't think about the star signings. Think right now about what we need to do to actually get our club on a good financial base. Because clearly, for a while now, the wage bill has been rising. It's not a surprise that suddenly we've got a big wage bill. They knew that already. They already knew that it was a problem. It shouldn't have been allowed in the first place to get this far. But here we are. What's going to happen now in the future? When that cut isn't in place anymore, are we going to then see perhaps they're going to agree to reduce their salaries by 10%, 20% on a permanent basis? But would they agree to that? I mean, I doubt it. If they've signed a contract there that says they have a set wage, they agreed upon that at the time, all the parties involved would have signed on the dotted line, are you then going to go back on your word? I'm not really sure if that's going to be able to happen. The board may need that to happen, but this is what I'm saying right now. It's not about transfers, not about transfer fees, not about finding the money there to buy players. It's about finding the money to pay our players with the massive wage bill the board have brought up on our club. So that right now, guys, is the big news when it comes to Barcelona. Plenty of questions to answer in the current weeks from the Barcelona board. They are going to be crunching the numbers right now. They need to work out exactly how they are going to manage the finances of this club. There's plenty to come, and I'll keep you updated right throughout it all. Thanks for watching, guys. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below on everything we discussed there from the Champions League. What do you make of those changes? And of course, let me know what you think of our finances. Keep it clean. But until next time, as always, guys, Visca el Barça!